If you're worried about changes that are happening to you or someone close to you, and you think there might be something wrong, don't ignore these signs. Go and do something about it. It may not be dementia, and a proper assessment helps rule out other conditions. But if you do have dementia, there are many benefits to finding out early. There is often a sense of relief in finding out just what is going on. You can be linked into the many support services available for you and your family, and you can get access to medication that might help. And you can actively plan for the future. For some, it's not an easy road to a diagnosis.
Well, it appears that I might have been one of the last to know that Joni had Alzheimer's. Alison, our daughter, was saying, I think Mum's not herself. I knew that she'd put on some weight, and the doctor had her on some tablets for insulin resistance. One of her friends said, read this newspaper article, which I seemed to put off. I don't know why. I put it in the letterbox inside and didn't read it for ages. Maybe I was in denial, I don't know. But in the end, I took her down to the doctor. He had her by himself for a little while, and then he called me in. It was quite serious. And then he did some other checks, and he did this test that's been done a couple of times, and is quite a common one, where he'd ask her about 15 to 20 questions, but at the beginning of that, he would say 3 abstract items. In Joni's case, it was apple tree, cricket bat and pear, as I recall. And he'd go through his questions, she got all of them right, and then he'd say, what were those 3 items? And she couldn't remember them. And that seems to be a test for Alzheimer's that twigs them to go further and do more testing.
Gordon was seeing his cardiologist, and I sent him a fax at the time, just pointing out the changes that I had observed with Gordon. And I said this, it's possibly due to stress, which I thought it was, because we were working really hard and the business was extremely busy. And anyway, he phoned me back straight after the appointment, and he said, thank you for ringing me, because he said, unless I know what symptoms to look for, I don't know what questions to ask. And he said, I really do think there could be a problem, and I think you should go and see a neurologist, which is exactly what I did. And this is when this neurologist requested many tests for Gordon, including a neuropsychologist and also a lot of x-rays and things like that, scans. And it showed up that he had semantic dementia. I think it's with the disease that we're dealing with, we have to remember that it is often an invisible disease. With my husband, he looks extremely well and healthy, and it is a very invisible disease.
When it finishes, the flowers, then it's got to be cut back again, which is what I always do.
The first thing we did was go to our GP, and as soon as you notice symptoms, because they'll order all sorts of tests, like blood tests, which rule out things like vitamin B12 deficiency, because the symptoms of that can apparently mimic the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease. And my hubby also had to have various brain scans, MRI, CT, something called a brain spec, and I think it was to rule out tumours and other things. But it also, the scans then show up changes that happen in the brain when you've got Alzheimer's disease.
We went there.
Go to your GP.
The GP, or anyone who's not stupid would go to their GP if they're not feeling right. But I think what I want to say is that I'm still me right now.
If you're worried about your memory, then see your family doctor. Your family doctor should take a history from you and find out what your concerns are. Your family doctor may also want to ask somebody in your family who knows you well and has observed such deficits occurring. Your family doctor will probably do a physical examination and order some tests, such as blood tests or urine tests, to find out any reversible causes for your memory problems. If there is concern or you're still uncertain about what's going on, it's wise to get a second opinion, such as from a neurologist, a geriatrician, or a psychogeriatrician, or a specialist memory clinic. This will require a referral from your family doctor. There are many conditions which can mimic dementia. One of them is depression. In depression, people lose interest, become more apathetic, their concentration wanes, their memory is not as sharp, and it can look for all the world like a dementia. But depression is eminently treatable, and so it's important to rule out this as a cause of memory problem.